Okay, so this meeting is being recorded. This is the January 11th 0 UTC SIG OpenStack meeting. For a bunch of people, this meeting will actually take place on January 10th. So it's our first meeting of the year, and I want to welcome everybody. Looks like it's a pretty small turnout, as I guess is the norm lately, but hopefully this will grow in the future. I guess I'll have us start by taking a look at the agenda document. So I'll share this. All right. So can everybody see that that document that I just shared?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess we're going to start off the meeting with the official notification of the change of SIG leadership. Over the last, I guess, couple of years, how long have you and Ihor been running this, Steve?
I want to say 2 years. I don't know if that's an exaggeration or not.
Yeah, this sounds about right, because I remember both of you were running this back at the first KubeCon that I was at, which was over a year ago. Ihor has transitioned out of Mirantis and into a role at the CNCF, and Steve is also taking on new responsibilities at Red Hat, and so we're transitioning the leadership of SIG OpenStack, and so this is going to kind of be the first official meeting where that transition happens. And so welcome to David Lyle, Robert Morris, and myself as the what do we call this? SIG coordinators. What's the official name, the title that we have for this?
I think it's just SIG leads.
SIG leads.
As official as it gets in terms of the SIG stuff right now.
Yeah. So we have some patches. I think Steve has been working on some patches that are in flight to help out with this transition. I don't know, are those, have you seen those pull requests up, or is that something that you and Ihor are still working out?
The stuff that we do with pull requests, which lives in the community repository, that I submitted the time change already, and that already merged. And then just today, I submitted that other pull request, which is adding you guys as the leads instead of you and myself. I don't anticipate any problem with that. And then the other two loose ends I mentioned on Slack are getting you guys added to the SIG leads mailing list. And the reason for that is they use that to send out some notifications and stuff, like if they change something from a contributor experience point of view, or they expect something from the SIG folks, particularly around release coordination time, they'll send it to that mailing list. And then also the YouTube channel, just for uploading the meeting recording to. So I still need to figure that out.
Okay. So with those items in progress, and we can help out in any ways that we need to on on comments or approvals. I guess the next step too is that now that we're looking at this transition, kind of figuring out how the things that we need to accomplish and the tasks that we need to divide amongst ourselves in order to kind of pick up the maintenance of the group, and just kind of the administrative things that that we have to do. And so right off the top of my head, we have scheduling and organization and running of the meetings. And right now it's kind of we're all just talking to ourselves, and so we might want to have a discussion on if the Zoom meetings are an effective way for us to continue. If so, how we encourage more people to show up and participate in them. or if this is something that maybe we want to look at other avenues of communication. Also, just in general, evaluating the pull requests and the issues that come in, triaging those, assigning those work, how we take on the responsibilities of reviewing that work and assigning that work to other people, and working with the members of the community, including, most notably, I think DIMS and I forget how to say his name, Fangipan. He's a Chinese developer who's done tremendous amount of work. How we manage the mailing list, how we manage the Slack channel, these are sort of the administrative issues that we have to start thinking about. And I don't know, are there other issues that I missed here, Steve, that we need to cover?
I think you kind of covered the main one, which was in one of the themes from a lot of the discussions about moving the meeting time around and stuff, was how do we do more asynchronous or offline communication of stuff, like people asking for how can they get a summary email that's more digestible, and kind of just figuring out what people, I guess, care about in terms of that. Because I think we were sending out kind of the summary of the PRs and issues that seem to be getting traction, but that didn't really generate much activity either. So we need to try and figure out exactly what people think is important to work on and how we track that.
Right. So I don't know if that's a discussion we want to have right now. Robert or David, do you have any thoughts or ideas about any of these issues?
I don't. I haven't really been involved enough yet to see how things operate, so we'll see later.
I mean, it's strange in the face-to-face at the conferences and stuff. There's a lot of interest, and then just not much around meeting time. But I don't know if I don't know how to encourage that or how, figure out how to address what people are actually wanting to. I don't know. Maybe things are being addressed that people care about, and they don't feel the need to bring them up in a meeting or anything. I don't know.
Yeah, well, in general, when I go and I take a look at like the pull requests that are active right now, there are a few of the usual suspects who aren't at this meeting, but who are participating in communication on the pull requests, which makes me think that it is the Zoom meetings are kind of a community standard within the Kubernetes community. But if we're not getting a lot of attendance, it feels like we might be better off having fewer meetings, like maybe monthly meetings, say over Zoom, so that we can participate in that. Making sure that we're participating in the community meetings where we can, where we have important things to announce or important things to say. So the Kubernetes community meetings, general community meetings, take place on Thursdays, and also utilizing the mailing list as a place to round up the issues that we're facing right now in places where we need people's eyes on different pull requests. And I'm wondering if that might be a more effective way to kind of communicate some of our goals and the current issues that the community is facing.
Yeah, I think one of the other suggestions that came out of the 2 face-to-face sessions with those events late last year was also kind of cross-posting more stuff, which I know is a dirty word, but getting more visibility, not just posting to the SIG list, but also CCing OpenStack dev or even OpenStack operators where it makes sense to get visibility for the people who aren't necessarily deep in the Kubernetes side of this, but are running Kubernetes on OpenStack and do care about this, but maybe don't know exactly what's going on or where they should look for information. Yeah,
and that was actually something that's something that I've been thinking about too. We've talked about this SIG Kubernetes within the OpenStack community, and that we've never gone through the step. I never went through the steps to actually officially formalize that. Formalize that structure. But to me, it would make sense that if we, in the formalization of that structure, if that group is this group so that it's so that in some sense it's one organization that spans both the OpenStack and the community and the Kubernetes communities. And then we can start, like for example, lower down in the meeting notes, I added a list of open pull requests that are in some sense active, and things that we can look at and things that we can evaluate. And when we roll up some of these issues that we want to share, sharing them across both communities. And so, normally Steve before the meetings posts a list of these are the latest open issues, these are the latest open pull requests, and sharing a mirror of those issues that we feel are important for this week across both communities. I feel like that could be a good place to start and start looking for the engagement.
Yeah, the filters for those are available in the past emails. You basically just update the date, but basically we're only looking at stuff that someone cared enough about to actually update it in the last, since we had a meeting.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyone else, feel free to jump in if you have any anything to mention about any of this. Okay, so I think at this point, I think we can move on to our next topic, which is goals for 2018, which is a little bit more of a a discussion about the things that we want to accomplish over the next year. And there are a couple of links in here which come from the Australian OpenStack Summit and from the Austin, from the Austin CNCF.
Yeah, we really screwed you on the abbreviations there.
and the Sydney OpenStack Summit. But I think that two of the major goals that are coming out of this are breaking out the cloud provider. This is in accordance with the larger Kubernetes goals of getting all of the providers out of tree. Right now, DIMS is maintaining a clone of the upstream repository so that when we're ready to break out, we'll be able to use his repository as a seed for the provider within the OpenStack ecosystem. But the other is also ongoing work involved with testing and making sure that, in order to establish OpenStack as a first-class cloud provider, that we have proper testing in place for that. So we have some initial work for that in flight with a pull request that went to the CNCF CI/CD to have OpenStack testing set up. That patch landed at KubeCon, and we'll be coordinating with that team to see what we need to move forward to have that appear on the dashboard. Right now, it's not appearing on their dashboard inside of GitHub, maybe because the tests aren't running right now. So we need to circle up with them. But we're also looking at, coordinating with groups like Open Lab, which is something that Huawei is helping set up with Melvin Hilsman to set up some third-party testing for different projects. And so they actually have an active set of developers, I think 4 developers from Huawei and 4 developers from Intel, plus a number of donated resources from Intel, Huawei, VexHost, and some other providers, including some academic providers, to be able to start running tests. One of their goals is to set up an independent node pool for Open Lab inside of the OpenStack infrastructure, so that this node pool will be devoted towards, in part towards testing Kubernetes on OpenStack. We're also looking at some of the projects within OpenStack testing inside of OpenStack CI so we have a bunch of different testing avenues, and coordinating those test efforts and making sure that we're communicating those back to the Kubernetes team is I think one of the important goals of 2018. Did I miss any of the major goals there?
I think
Yeah. Yeah, looking at the another one of the goals is writing documentation for installing for using the OpenStack provider. This is another major goal. I think that we're looking at DIMS is planning on writing a guide to see how to do this with Kubernetes once Kubernetes 1.9 is out. And I think that was the other major issue that we were looking at. Yeah, that appears to be it. I don't know. So does anyone else have anything else to add?
The only thing we didn't explicitly list in the notes here, sorry if you mentioned it, was I know Short in particular had a lot of complaints in Austin about the documentation, which we do have this kind of outstanding item that we've talked about a bit, which was writing a getting started guide that uses kubeadmin um, to replace what's currently there, which of course is the OpenStack heap thing. Actually, that should be a goal in itself. Delete the OpenStack heap thing. That's
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah. Let's capture this in the notes as actually something that we can perhaps start doing this week. Is getting some pull requests in to remove that documentation.
And which documentation was that? Oh, OpenStack Heat?
Yeah, this is the OpenStack heat-based documentation that I think was this Fujitsu that sent this up a few years ago. It's not maintained. It's out of date.
Right.
Wrong. We should.
And of course, it's the first thing that someone browsing the Kubernetes docs for OpenStack related stuff hits is like, this is how you should definitely get started, and it doesn't work at all.
Yeah. So, that's something that if someone else doesn't want to take this, I'll volunteer to take this as one of the first actions that we have out of this meeting. And we can start by asking in the Slack channel if there's any existing documentation that people have out there that we might want to point to in the interim. And we can send up an initial pull request to remove that heat documentation and point to some of the third-party documentation that might be out there. That way we immediately get rid of the bad documentation and point to some things that are new while we work on official kubeadmin-based installation documentation.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I guess moving on. So I took a quick look at, I think, so do we have any other comments on the kind of on the administrative aspects of things? Is there anything else that like David or Robert that you were wondering about, or Steve, that any wisdom you want to do impart upon us?
I think the wisdom is make it up as you go along. But I don't know, that's no, I'm fairly serious in saying that the current governance structure of Cube gives you a lot of flexibility to kind of define the SIGs as you need to for what the SIG is focused around. So there's not a lot of formal structure there, which is a pro a lot of the time, a con sometimes. Like for example, there's no really fixed way to select new leaders for a SIG or anything like that, which is why this is a little bit weird to go through. But yeah, you have a fair bit of flexibility to define it based on how you need to and how you see the people who turn up and actually are doing the work for that matter need to be facilitated as well.
Okay. So I guess moving along to more mundane issues, I identified 3 open pull requests that are active right now, and I think are possibly deserving of our attention. I don't know if it's worthwhile to try to go into depth in all of these pull requests, but I wanted to call them out here in case you wanted to go, and I added them to the meeting notes in case you wanted to go take a look at them. The first is a pull request to fix Cinder detach problems. Let's actually open this up, and
I think this is actually finally close to merging.
yeah, this one's pretty close. Is
Taking a lot longer than I think people would have liked, but
but it's still, it's December 5th. It's still pretty fast patch for this, but it but essentially Cinder volumes aren't being attached after a node is being shut down, and so this pull request handles that issue. There's been a lot of discussion on it. Yeah, I read through it, and the discussion looks pretty good. And I think that right now we kind of just need just a few more eyes on it. If you have a cluster available where you might be able to test this patch, feel free to do that. Or if you're experienced in looking at Go, to also take a look at it. But this has been updated as early as today, and it looks like it's ready to merge. And so I think it's worth taking a look at to get a sense of what a pull request against a direct OpenStack project looks like. Scrolling past fast here so that people can't see. There's another pull request which is remove orphaned routes from terminated instances. Again, it looks like there are issues with cleaning up OpenStack resources as instances are deleted. This one's a little bit older. But it looks like this one could use a little bit of attention.
I think one of the underlying issues here is not a lot of people actually understand the route stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, existing route is not returned by the cloud provider and is never considered for deletion by the route controller. So it looks like the patch needs to somehow cache the routes and delete them, even if it's not being returned anymore. But it's a pretty small patch that's in flight. So again, something if you're looking to build your skills in understanding what's happening inside of the provider, I think that this might be a good place to take a look at and start on too. And as an action item, I think that if we can get some clouds stood up and some comments on this, just to kind of build our own skills on the code and the changes that can go into the provider. And then the last code review I wanted to take a look at was this is actually an example of a patch that is cross-cloud, and I know that there are some cross-cloud efforts that are going on right now to kind of unify all of the behavior across providers, which is another thing. It's another initiative that we should be involved with, and maybe we should assign one of us in particular to take a look at this. But this is a patch that tries to change the names that are being used by load balancers to be a little bit more user-friendly. And if you take a look down at the right here, you can actually see that there are a bunch of, it's not just the SIG OpenStack that's being targeted by this, but Azure and AWS are also tagged in this patch. It's fairly old. It comes from July 31st of last year. But it, there's a bunch here that, if as one of the cloud provider SIGs, I think this, patches like this are places where we could offer feedback and leadership within the larger Kubernetes community and get a little bit more exposure. And so this is something that we might want to take a look at and see if it if it makes sense to us, if it makes sense to us, if it's something that we maybe want to help advance. Comments on any of that?
It sounds reasonable. But I don't.
Okay, so I think with that, I'm just gonna like kind of leave it open if anyone else wants to make any other general comments or has anything else to say before we close out the meeting. All right. Shotzi has something to say.
Yeah, he says to a done, let's go for a walk. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's dinner time. Okay, well, I think for now we'll keep these meetings and, we can start working on some of these action items and we'll just see how the group evolves as time goes on. And I want to say thanks to Steve for taking charge of the group and leading it through all of the ups and downs. And, hopefully we'll see you around still and wishing you luck on your new ventures inside of Red Hat.
Yeah. I'm still going to be around various OpenStack stuff. It's just going to take a little more of my time. So, cool. Well, thank you guys for picking up the mantle. And hopefully this is a good year for the SIG and we can build out a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see you all online.
Okay.
See you guys.
See ya. Thank you.